Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. The news we have all been dreading has officially been confirmed. Asenathi Ntlabakanye will serve a ban and will be out for 18 months up until the day after the 2027 Rugby World Cup, after officially being banned by SARDS for doping. After he basically sort of turned himself in or revealed and came forward and said that he had taken under the supervision and the prescription of a medical profession a substance that did appear on the banned list and returned an analytical finding shortly after that in September. And the entire saga has taken sort of almost 6 to 8 months to sort of come to a conclusion, but we finally do have a final result, and that is the Lions prop will take no further part in the season and will not be eligible to take to the rugby field until after the next Rugby World Cup. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So we've been waiting for this, waiting for some sort of decision. It's been a bit of a cloud over the player and frustrating. I think the more you read into it, the more it's a frustrating situation because it's one that we should never have been in at the end of the day. And I think that I'm hoping there should be a lot of internal reviews within the Lions, within the Springboks, within the entire sort of South African medical rugby sort of ecosystem, because this is a gross bit of negligence that should never happen and it's going to affect a career. This is a player who was going to the World Cup. I'm going to say it. The way he's playing, he was going to go to the World Cup. I think after Vilkolo, Thomas Latoya, Asenathi Ntlabakanye would be the third choice tight head right now. Arguably second choice, if he continues to play the way he is. He's been in tremendous form. And it's so frustrating now that they've got a ban, which literally bans him till the day after the Rugby World Cup. I mean, it doesn't get more blatant in terms of what the punishment is. But we're going to get into the ban a little bit now, and I'm very interested to see what people's sort of reactions are, because it's easy to see a headline saying Ntlabakanye banned for doping, and we immediately jump to conclusions. Oh, South Africans are, the doping, whatever. But it's a very unique situation, and I think one of the reasons he was never stood down from playing is a core belief, I think, by SA Rugby and the Lions that he was not going to receive a ban because of the circumstance that he finds himself in. So let's get through it, shall we? And got a very nice article here by Jan de Koning where he kind of breaks it all down. So it officially has been 18 months, effective from the May, and it will end on the 13th of November. And the Rugby World Cup is on the 12th of November. So yes, however, the players, SA's World Rugby and World Anti-Doping Agency have 21 days in which to file an appeal against the sanction to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. And apparently my players in Lions Rugby are currently considering their options on whether they want to take it a step further and go for the appeal. The statement on by SAS said the player's urine sample tested positive for the hormone and metabolic modulator anastrozole during an outer competition test on the 22nd of May 2025. In terms of the South African anti-doping rules, this substance is classified as a specified substance and does not warrant a mandatory suspension, which is why he continued to play and could continue to play. They then said the player also self-declared the use of a prohibited anabolic steroid, DHEA. On 9th of September 2025, he was formally charged for the presence and use of anastrozole and the use of DHEA. The Lions, Ntlabakany's team, responded swiftly with a statement of their own in the wake of their 18 months, saying as follows. The Lions Rugby Company confirms that it has received communication from the South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport regarding the decision to sanction Lions prop Asenathi Ntlabakanye for a period of 18 months following an anti-doping violation. It then says the Lions Rugby Company, together with my players, the Rugby Players Organization, will deliberate on the appropriate next steps. Basically, will they appeal or won't they appeal? And they said during this time they'll continue to support him and as he navigates the process ahead. So his eligibility commenced on the 13th of May, so yesterday, and will run until the 13th of November. And they said that no further comment will take place. Now, it's an interesting situation because when you look at like an Apiro Dianti, when he was basically banned, the Lions kind of threw him to the wolves, to be honest. He spoke about the fact that there was not a support system. SA Rugby didn't come behind him and get behind him and back him and say he didn't do anything wrong, which is a stark difference to the way that they have rallied behind Asenathi since this had come through. And they've always maintained he did nothing wrong. And, I think they've always hoped that they was going to take it into consideration and that he wasn't going to get a ban. The hearing was taking place in March, and the closing arguments was finally heard on the 21st of April. They said that the Ntlabakanye must serve an 18-month ban within that tribunal. And it says, furthermore, the doping tribunal ruled that all the players' individual competitive results and benefits, such as player of the match awards, personal accolades, match fees, and bonuses, are disqualified with effect from the date of the sample collection. So basically, all those sort of wins would go away from his records, basically as if he didn't play those games. The disqualification of results, however, is limited to the player's own individual competitive results and benefits and does not extend to a team result, which is why the Lions could continue to play him and why the Springboks could continue to play him without having to worry about anything being overturned. They said then SAIDS is reviewing the merits of the decision within the framework of the anti-doping rules to decide whether it will appeal the decision. So basically, there's been a lot of discussions about this. So when it first came out, Sarri's released a statement saying that so basically saying that steadfastly disputed the claim that he committed an anti-doping violation. He was part of the Lions squad. He was part of it. And when they basically sort of came out and said that this was the situation, SA Rugby said the following: it was prescribed by a specialist physician early in 2025 for medical reasons and taken with the approval and the supervision of a medical doctor specifically appointed to manage the medical affairs of professional rugby players. And this is where I speak about the gross negligence. This is not a player who's gone to a pharmacy and taken an over-the-counter drug or sought to find, under-the-table stuff. He was prescribed this by a doctor who specializes and is employed to work within the rugby realm for medical reasons. And he got it so wrong. And I'm really hoping that there are some major consequences to that medical professional because he has ruined a player's career at the end of the day. They then said Ntlabakanye was transparent in his declarations, acted in good faith, and at all times followed the medical due process as prescribed by the industry. He relied on the relevant professional medical advice, as you should, and at no time did he seek to obtain an unfair advantage, nor did he take any medical substance without prior medical authorization. And I think that's what the big argument was, But the problem is that these days the onus was on the players, and they can't say, "Oh, I didn't know." The onus is on you to ensure you understand what's going into your body and that you take the relative precautions. The frustrating part is this is taking precautions. Consulting a medical profession within the field, and it's been appointed to do it, is taking the right steps. Because everyone's taking some sort of supplements and the likes of that. You have to as athletes, you have to get extra protein, recovery, and the whole thing. There's no sort of athletes out there who are not taking some sort of protein or different sort of supplements in some shape or form. And as a result, you've got to be very careful of what you take. So the frustrating part is that they trusted a medical profession, that they sought the advice, and that he kind of went down theoretically the right way of doing things. And that is actually what was sort of led to his uncoming. And that, I think, is the very, very frustrating part about it. It's just not, it's not really on, to be honest. So they're saying, so based on the whole thing, that it's unclear why a drug containing this substance was prescribed by a medical profession in the first place. However, as mentioned, SAID says as follows. He says, under 20 of SAID's anti-doping rules, players take responsibility in the context of anti-doping for what they ingest and use, while they must also inform medical personnel of their obligation not to use prohibited substances and prohibited methods, and to take responsibility to make sure that any medical treatment received does not violate these anti-doping rules. And that's their rule. And that's the frustrating part that says must inform medical personnel of their obligation. So basically, you must tell your doctors that you can't take certain things. You need to, so if you go to a normal GP, for example, you need to say, I'm a registered athlete, I cannot take X, Y, and Z. The frustrating thing is this is a doctor within the space who should have known this, who would have had access to the ban list and should have known that these substances should have not even been anywhere near it. And either it's a case of them deciding that it would have been fine or that it wasn't thing, or the fact that it was necessary and it was going to be allowed. But it's gross negligence at the end of the day. And as a result, a player is going to miss the Rugby World Cup, who I think would have gone. So it's really frustrating. I personally stand with them. I think that, I think Xavier is right in terms of I don't think he sought an advantage at the end of the day. It's very different to some other doping cases where people have taken anabolics, for example, and look to try and find that extra half an inch, that extra little bit of performance. I don't think this is the case. And the fact that it's 18 months speaks to that as well. If this was a genuine doping case, we're looking at 4 years. So it is, inverted commas, a bit of a slap on the wrist, but it's still a substantial ban. But the fact that it is a shorter ban, it sort of shows they're basically probably saying, well, it actually wasn't really your fault, but you probably should have taken more care, inverted commas, so there has to be some sort of a punishment. Is it harsh? Is it fair? I tend to go on the harsh part, and I really like to see them appeal it, to be honest. Even if they reduce it down to like a 6 months, get yourself back into contention, get them back into the Lions. But it's a huge loss for the Lions, who, are looking to make a URC playoff, a URC semi-final. Hopefully this will really gear the players up and they can go out and get that point they need this weekend to get into the playoffs and to get into the Champions Cup. But I do think the Lions' chance of winning the URC has taken a massive knock, because arguably we've just lost one of our top 3-4 best players. And it's a crime that we're not going to be able to see him for another 18 months. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.